Let's try. Let's try. I hope you can see me because I'm not sure that's up. You have to tell me if you can see me. Tell me if you can see me. Because I've been having trouble with them. Why do I always get trouble with this YouTube stuff? Can see me and can hear me. That's the second thing. You hear me? Can you hear me? Let me know if you can hear me. Chat. Yes. Oh, I need this. So I don't know what went on, but my YouTube, I have a program over on this screen where it tells me where I stream through, and then I have YouTube. Usually I have it on that screen, but the Olympics is on there. The 100-meter finals just coming up. And so I put it on the screen in front of me, and it kept losing the video. So I kept thinking it went out. Anyway, sorry I'm on late, but I am here. And this week, what I've noticed as I was setting it up, with the shenanigans that went on before, I can put subscriber chat. I think I turned it on. Did I turn it on? No, I don't think I turned it on now. So, I didn't turn it on. So before, on the previous 4 versions that I put on, I said you can only enter into the chat if you've been subscribed at least 5 minutes, because then I thought, if we're going to get people on to engage with us in an interesting way, then at least I'll get a sub to the channel, and then they can unsubscribe if they want. But maybe that should calm things down, but we haven't got that on now. We haven't got that on, but we are here. I'm tired today. I'm very tired today. I don't know why. Sorry, it's a bit late. I had a few errands to run. I had to take a child back home. Who's playing my daughter, so that was all fun. Getting the second camera set up so I could look at the chat, but now I got the chat in front of me, so I might not be using that tonight. So how's things going in your world? There's nothing really to chat about, unless you want to chat about the riots, but it's just such a big thing. I preached about it in church this morning. Thank God, before my first service, a few minutes before the service started at 8 o'clock. So you need to speak about this from a Christian perspective. But so yeah, I have talked about that this morning. Hey, praise God. Hey, let's praise God. This morning in our church, and you know that I'm in a small parish church, we had 8 young adults, 18 to 21 year olds. We had 3 join us last year, and they brought their friends. So we had 8 turn up, which was really lovely, because it would have been quite quiet at the moment, because obviously it's holidays, so a lot of people are on holidays. And for one person, it was their first time to church for 10 years. And for another one, it was his 3rd, and he came last week. So that was his 2nd time in church, and he came to our church. And they said they really enjoyed it, and they're searching. And it was a really interesting conversation I had with them. And it's really interesting with these young people and the movement of God amongst them, because they're asking questions. So in my role, I do speak to a lot of people, obviously, and it's amazing how many people tell me opinions, which I will do as well, so I'm part of that. But what I've seen with younger people is they ask questions. So they're asking questions, not telling opinions. They ask questions and they listen to what you have to say. So it's just amazing. So that's a praise God thing. My son is off at the moment at something called Satellites at the location. They have new wine down in Shepton Mallet near Bristol. And he called me today. He went on Thursday. It's the first phone call that we've had from him. He is 17 next month. And he's just praising God as well. There's a lot to be thankful for. So I just got my eye on the 100 meters just there. So if I have a sneaky look and just see what the 100 meters are doing. I don't expect it to be busy tonight. I came on late, and lots of people are doing things, rioting out protesting. It's a combination of things, isn't it? The country's very angry at a lot of things, from, yes, this government, even though it's been a few weeks, the previous government, the state of things. I think there's a lot of anger, but you also will get those people who will riot as well. And the division that's happening at the moment, it's not good. It's not good. It does make me worry. What's the answer? What's my sermon? No, the answer is Jesus. I did say this morning. But if I could phone Keir Starmer, I said, I got the answer to your problem. What's the problem? The gospel. The gospel's the problem. Not the problem. The gospel's the answer. The gospel is the answer. That's the answer. Jesus is the answer, and we all know that Jesus is the answer. So let's see how we're doing. So I'm not going to look too much for there because now I've got the chat here. Where are we? You can see me, you can hear me. Mr. Bean, Mr. Ben just popped up on the screen. Thank you very much. Men swimming and diving at the Paris Olympics. No, it's 100 meters. Oh, and it's just finished. 9.78. These guys, they just run so quick. It's just amazing. And I know there's a lot of technology in the track, but wow. What's the world record? I have to wait for the world record. Well, he doesn't look happy. He's just won, but he doesn't look happy. Men swimming and diving. The whole thing, that French guy in the Olympics, winning 2 disciplines, the breaststroke and the... Oh, wait a sec. He's not looking happy because he might not come first. And the butterfly. Oh, yeah, someone else came first. I'll let you watch it one day what's happening. It was just phenomenal. So a lot of people you've seen a lot of Christians are boycotting the Olympics because of what happened at the start. And I think that's very separate from what these athletes are doing. And, the Olympics just are phenomenal. And that... I like to say this. So the slowest person in that race ran out of 8 men 9.91. Ran 9.91 and came last. That is phenomenal. Or one person might not run. He's limping. Anyway, it's unbelievable. Michael John, martial law and police state is very close. There is, I think things will happen. I think Labour governments, left governments across the world do certain things. Stuart, I'm in trouble too. On holiday in Pompeii and received the alert to leave the restaurant. Not many a Wi-Fi local provider hasn't. Heading back to the hotel. Wow, yes, because Mount Etna, I saw that today, is erupting. That's so what's going on in Pompeii? The Mount Etna is erupting. So that's crazy. Michael John, watching the situation back home in Ireland very closely. And it's in Northern Ireland as well. One thing that was really nice, I saw a photo or video of the Catholics and the Protestants coming together. That was amazing. So if Jesus was the answer, it would have gone down better than what the PM said. The Prime Minister... I see videos of both sides coming out, but when you only speak about one side, you're just going to anger that side more. Instead of speaking about the division in the country and that both sides need to stop, it's very divisive. Very divisive. TP, Olympics boring. The funny thing I find about the Olympics is that I would never watch half these sports. I would never watch half these sports. But in the Olympics, I'm watching some strange things that I'd never watch. So, because these are people that they're the athletes at the top of their game. It's phenomenal. In fact, probably the one thing that I don't watch, probably because I'm footballed out, is football. Because you haven't got probably the top players. I actually went back in 2012 when we had it in London. I got invited to the football final at Wembley it was between Brazil and somebody else. And it was weird because the new Wembley, so it's like 90,000 people, and there was absolutely no atmosphere because you didn't have like the two teams. And so it was just people watching football. And it was really weird to be in such an atmosphere. It was very cool to be in the Olympic final to watch that. Somebody couldn't go, so I got an invite and I went down. But it was weird. Brazil won, by the way, and that was quite good. So let's chat. This is no agenda for tonight. Just to chat, just to get questions, see how you're doing, what you're up to, what you think of the world, what you think of things. So you have to ask questions. Otherwise, I will sit here and drink my half a glass of wine, and then it will be the most interesting live stream. Vincent, silent my social media about two things: the Olympics and the riots. What's Britain afraid of? Actually, I find like on social media, I check out Twitter. Twitter's quite good because you do see a lot of stuff that's happening on social media, on Twitter. You will see more the right side, or the thing is, it's algorithm, isn't it? So it depends what I look at. It would feed me, and then I go check out BBC News to see the other side, where they're reporting about it. I don't watch it, but yeah, the Olympics is not on social media, but the riots are. Some of the stuff is crazy, and I think the sad thing in all of this, 3 young girls got murdered, and that can be or is being forgotten. Vincent, I mean, my friends won't comment. Oh, okay, but I thought you meant what's coming up because I don't see the Olympics on social media. I don't see about the riots, but your friends won't comment. Yes, I think people are afraid to comment. I think people are afraid of. Are you in the UK? I think of people now with what the government is saying is they're going to be afraid to comment on anything online or say anything online on a video. That would be horrendous. I did think about that actually. I thought about that today. What if I did a video of speaking about this, and then I would Vesuvius. Did I say Etna? Didn't I? It's Mount Etna. Vesuvius. That's it. Look. Yeah, what if it's, you just don't know where the law's going, and we know that left-leaning governments are a bit more stricter with their laws, should we say. We'd rather say than draconian, but we wouldn't say draconian because that would be not true. Michael John, many on Gab are blaming the elitist Jews in the US and elsewhere, yet also say that Trump wants to become a dictator. Look at Venezuela. Like, if you want to see a dictator, I think it'd be so hard for Trump to become a dictator. And I don't think the Constitution or anything that will allow that. And he did step down last time, so I don't get where they come from. Venezuela had elections where the president got voted out, and he's not going. And my last reading is like 2,000 people are gone. So my wife, you probably know and remember, is from Colombia, and they have kidnapped hundreds, if not thousands, of people, especially what we would call like verifiers. The people who are leading the checks in each location have been kidnapped or killed in locations across Venezuela to try and get the vote not published. And there's countries that are saying you need to publish the vote. America stepped in now. That's a dictatorship. Venezuela's a dictatorship. Trump, I don't think, could be a dictator. I think America's too law-driven, and I think it would be disastrous for the country. So is So many on Gab are playing elitist Jews in the US and elsewhere. I think actually a lot of the civil unrest comes from a lot that's been underlying, and I think a lot of people who have if you take the immigration thing out as well, I think that's always been there, and that people are angry, and that's there as well, and then add the immigration thing on top. I think it's been, as they say, brewing for a long time. So, Stuart, question: do you encourage your congregation who are Orthodox to sign at CEEC, the Alliance? Yes, I would. My congregation, I would. Those who I know who are Orthodox, yes, I would. I would say to them, sign up to the Alliance, because they allow laity now. But in my context, it's a very rural, well, not rural, it kind of is and isn't. We're just outside London, and we're a small village church, and I wouldn't say we're an older congregation, but we have, the majority are, even though we're getting new people now. So for them is not on their radar, or something that's important to them. They will have their views on it, but to sign up to Alliance or CEC. But there are those who have views and support me as the rector, who I would say, yes, definitely sign up to the Alliance and CEC. I think the numbers need to be there now, and I think the bishops need to understand that the numbers are there, and that it's not just clergy, because it was 2,000 clergy when the Bishop of Oxford did his letter, which he obviously disputed. But I think adding the laity would help with that as well. So, Miss MB, I can't see the stream. Eddie, I'm not welcome. I can go if not wanted. What's that? Stay. We don't kick anyone off the stream, even if they've been a bit difficult. But everyone's welcome here. Original username. Like that. God bless, strengthen and restore the Anglican Church. Yeah, well, the Anglican Church in the Western world, the Anglican Church across many parts of the world is really strong, and thank God for that. But the Anglican Church, especially in England, in the States, and Canada, places like that, needs to be strengthened. Scotland. So, I attend Mass this morning, and it was divine. Church should be divine, and a place where we meet God, that we hear His word preached faithfully, and that's the good thing. Brenda, I'm from the US, Alabama. There's a certain Alabama accent which I wouldn't want to try. I don't understand the Trump will become a dictator comment. It doesn't work that way. Thank you for the commenting on that. Yeah, and that's what I see. I think it's a rhetoric. So what's interesting? Okay, so here's a really interesting thing. So a friend told me to read a book called When Sheep Attack. A really good book. It's about when your a congregation will attack its pastor, its vicar, its pastor, whatever you call us. I'm making no comment why I read it. You can make that what you want. And a part of it is not about facts. It's about innuendo and rhetoric and just saying things. And it's really interesting reading the book. And in fact, it's an American book where the guy looked at 25 pastors. Well, actually, I think they were from Episcopal Church, so they were called rectors, who had been kicked out of their church or hounded out of their church by their congregations. And usually the church was doing really well. And there's a thing with triangulation of, so you've got the rector, you've got people who don't want them there. And there's usually a small group of people, and then get the bishop on side and then get them out. And it was really interesting read. But what kind of struck me as I was reading it was this rhetoric and innuendo of it doesn't matter about the truth. People will take anything and use lies and use things. And I think this whole thing with Trump becoming a dictator is that. I can't see any truth in it, especially with the States being so big on law. Come on, we know that in the States, if you say something wrong, you're going to get taken for court for for slander and stuff like that, which we always in England thought was crazy, because it was just such a big thing when I was growing up and we heard about it. And so it's like, well, you can't say anything in the States. So I think it's that. I think it's, if you put it out enough in the public domain, and we see this on social media, people will pick up on it, and it becomes like a truth when it isn't. And what you want to do is get that large enough crowd to start saying it. And even though the truth is probably in the Constitution, it doesn't matter, because people have heard it and they believe it. So, but that's a good book. If you are a vicar, pastor, whatever, when sheep attack, I got all 3 books. The second book is like 200 people. So he looked at 25 rectors, pastors, and then he, about 200 people wrote to him and said, exactly the same process happened to me. So he took his research further. It was a really amazing book. So it doesn't just apply for church, it applies for from what I see around the world. So Edward, Christ came in 2019 when I reached rock bottom in my life. I was turned around, live in the countryside now with a dog I have had for 3 years. My family came over in 1930s to escape. Sad what is happening. Yes, it is sad what's happening, and ultimately as well, I did archaeology at university, and you know, we claim this land. Take away Christianity at the moment. We claim this land. We've only lived here for a certain amount of time, and so everyone says I'm English, I'm British, which I am, absolutely. But I also know through history, my ancestors were never here as well for that long. My ancestors probably lived somewhere else far longer than I lived in England. But I do support, as I got the Olympics on there, England. I support them in the football, the cricket, the rugby, the British athletics, and you know, and the Olympics and stuff like that. But we bring Christianity back in. My first and foremost, my nationality is now as a, I don't know what you would call it, a child of heaven. I am part of God's kingdom, and that comes first. That's what I talked about a bit in the sermon this morning, is that we are brothers and sisters in Christ, and we come from different lands, but we're all made in the image of God. And this is what we have to remember. Just talk about the riots again. This division that I see of people attacking each other, we're attacking, not we, but those people attacking each other who are made in the image of God. And you know, that's wrong over ideologies which we as Christians know are not true. The truth is Jesus, and we need to get out and preach that and change people's lives. I kept saying for the inside out, not for the outside in, where we try to bring ideologies in, but from the inside out, where Christ changes us, the Holy Spirit changes us. So we live a different life. We live our life in a different way, and we preach the gospel, but we change the world. And so it's a time for the church now in England to rise up. And I know people might not listen, but some people might listen. And also, you know, that person of influence. They always talk about that person of influence who, you know, is so influential. Imagine that person changed and became a Christian, how they could influence people around them to change their ways. Anyway, so it is sad, and I was really shocked. You know, when those 3 young girls got killed, because I got a daughter who's 9, not many times I get affected. Not many times that I just going to make sure I'm in focus. It goes out of focus, go in focus. But that did, because it's close to home. I can't imagine what those parents are going through. And like I said, it's that's being forgotten because what's going on. But I do understand that there's a lot of anger. I don't think it should be shown in this way. Jesus protested, didn't he? The injustice of society at that time, but he did it in a way that has now lasted 2,000 years. So where are we? So did you see how the Protestants and Catholics stand together to protest on Saturday? That was a lovely moment. Yes, and I think these things that bring people together, it is quite amazing what happens with that. Like, I thought I wouldn't mention living in love and faith prayers in the Church of England, but how the evangelicals and the Anglo-Catholics have come together over that common good to try change. That's quite beautiful in the church as well, and to cross those lines, absolutely. It's the first time that you see something like that come together, and that's hopefully through this bad thing that's happening, God can work out good, and that will be a lasting thing. Michael John, similar debates have happened within the Catholic Church. If we listen to Father Casey Cole's channel, I don't know. Is that? I think I've seen that Father Casey is like breaking the habit. Is that breaking the habit? Put it down the bottom, Michael, if it is. I like him. He's good. Vincent, going back to Viscount. I always get Viscount. I'm so bad at my videos with names. Viscount. Castley comment, how organised was this? Or was it just two lads? I think, if you say the riots, I think there's people going out who are genuinely angry. I think people going out to cause trouble. Naturally, that's what you always have. And there are rumours of people putting in to instigate trouble as well. And once you light the blue paper, it can draw people in. And when there's a lot of anger, I think there's so much going on. I think there's so much going on at the moment with this. It is horrendous. And I think absolutely protest. And protest is right to change unjust structures that limit people's lives. But what's happening at the moment is anger. But the question is, where's that anger come from? Where is that anger coming from? How is that anger being built up? And a good challenge for the church is, where has the church been in this helping people? And churches do a lot of good work, but it's just a question that the church can think about maybe. And I'm very aware. I sit here in South Buckinghamshire, which is a very rich area, looking on from the outside. So I don't want to be unfair on that. But around here we have our own problems. Around here I saw the other day, the average house price in the area I live is £1 million. The average house price is £1 million. It's just crazy. Miss B and TP about bringing people together. It's amazing. It's amazing how a common cause can bring people together. That's the good. An original username. What's your thought on so many young Christians converted to Orthodox Christianity as a way of fighting secularism and liberalism? God bless you and everyone in chat. Thank you very much. So if you didn't catch the beginning of the stream, we had 8 young people in my church. Again, context, small village church. A lot of big churches around us. 18 to 21. A girl who's not been for 10 years to church has come. Another guy, third time to visit to church, second time with us. And I was speaking to them after the service. And what's interesting with the young people, as I said at the beginning, they're asking questions. They're not telling me their opinions. And that's massive. That's massive. I find it so interesting. Whatever thought they have, whether they're more conservative or more liberal, and I've seen this with teenagers as well in my church, they're asking questions and they want to listen. And what's also very interesting, they're coming to our communion service where we wear robes and we've got a choir. And I said, it's interesting you're coming to this service. And they said, with the liturgy, with the words we read in the service. And one guy said, it's comforting. And you've got to remember, this generation has grown up with, you can be whoever you want to be, you can do whatever you want to do, you can, there wasn't any strict, tidy your room, eat your food, you're not going to do that, how most of us probably got brought up with. And it's interesting, they're coming back now and they're seeking the truth is Jesus the truth? And it seems to be the truth for many, or they believe it's the truth. That's why they're coming. But also they want structure, and they find it comforting, and they find it really helpful. And so there's a movement of God, and I spoke about them to them openly about this, and they were really receptive and answering questions and not feeling defensive in any way as well. And it was just like a praise God moment. You know, my son phoned me, as I said earlier, talk about his a festival, Christian festival called Satellites, where they hold new wine. He's in a big tent worshipping with 5,000 other teenagers. He's like, never felt closer to God, which is just amazing. And, you know, I said, you know, I got some good news as well. We had 8 young people in church. He's like, praise Jesus. And it's like, don't need to be in just for 5,000 people. You can be in a small village church as well. God's moving. And I say to a lot of my congregation, God's moving. And their answer is yes. Yes, in this church, God's moving. So, so they are, you know, and so they are going to orthodoxy as well from more traditional thinking and more liberal thinking. They're coming to church, and because I'm known for my my stance as being orthodox, they know what they're coming to as well. It was quite funny because the Archbishop of Canterbury was down at this Satellites place in Shepton Mallet with my son, and he was telling his friends, "Oh, my dad knows the Archbishop of Canterbury," and I said, "No, I on the phone, I was like, I don't know him, but he probably knows me." I'm sure he might have caught 1 or 2 of my videos. So, and what's cool, you know, what's really cool? He said to me, and this is not a boast, don't take it that way. He said, teenagers know you, me, down there. And he said, don't worry, they like you. And that's like, wow. Like, wow, just wow. Like, that's what I mean. They're listening. They're listening. The kids are listening. And so they're searching, and they find my channel, and they're listening to me. And these are, I suppose, secondary school kids. Okay, so I see the chat going. Let's see where we are. Let's catch up. Michael John, a returned edition is the only way out of the situation. I think for the young people, absolutely. Our grandparents' generation gave us many warnings and predictions that came to pass in our times. Yes. And you know what's really interesting? Do you know what these young people were wearing when they came to church? Put it in the chat. Put it in the chat. What they were wearing. What do you think they were wearing when they came to church? It was so interesting. I'm missing my chat now. I'm going off this screen instead of that screen. So this screen isn't as big as that screen. So where did I get on this chat? Question. I'm a new Christian going to church just under a year. The Book of Revelation is never mentioned. Is this normal in Anglican church? Yes, I could say so. We don't dip into the Book of Revelation. We go from the lectionary, and it's never really in the lectionary. And we usually stick in the Gospels if you're going by the lectionary, but we're not. And it's a difficult one that people would avoid. But I always say, find a really good commentary or really good video on it of people that you know that you could trust and go through it, because Revelation is happening as we speak, as it were. Some people speak about it as like a spiral through time where certain things are coming through at different places. But I can imagine a lot of vicars, avoiding preaching on Revelation, because it's just, some people will say, what is it going on? So if you're going for the Anglican Church for the past year and you use the lectionary, you'll notice in the Anglican Church we've got this smart thing of, if there's a reading and there's a difficult part, we'll take the first part, we'll miss the difficult part, and then we'll go to the easy part. So we take the 2 easy parts, and because we don't want to speak about the difficult part. And I'm like, why? So I always include the whole passage, because you got to speak about difficult parts. So, but yes, it's not normal. But it's not normally. I don't think Revelation, apart from the new heaven and new earth part, is in the lectionary. Not that I know the lectionary off by heart, The book of Revelation will be preached at funerals because it talks about new heaven, new earth. Let's go down. Let's catch up. Vincent, it was hard to be bothered to support anyone in the Olympics this time. I did watch Yee and Biles, though. I was surprised how small, I forgot her first name, Biles, is. Oh, let me just check what people said about what they're wearing. Oh, I used my second cam. There we go, second cam. Okay. If I don't get to it, I'm on two different screens now. They were wearing shirts and ties. One guy was going to work, so he's wearing his work shirt. And the girls were wearing very formal stuff. They were dressed up in their Sunday best, I would say. And it was really respectful. And something you don't see as much in church. No, I do amongst the older congregation. Will always come looking in their Sunday best. But I've been to a lot of evangelical churches. I don't see people in their Sunday best. So these young people are coming to church, not only seeking for the truth and asking lots of questions. They're coming to church respecting God. If you know what I mean, they respect God, and say we're going to dress up. So this is 9:30 in the morning. They were there about 9:10. Sat. The people in our church usually come quite late, so they were there for a while. I managed to speak to them before the service. I managed to share my testimony about being an atheist, and coming to faith with the death of my parents, which was always challenging, and that was a great little conversation. But they were wearing their Sunday best. You know, this is really interesting. It kind of gives me a lot to think about. So, where are we? I was in Patmos this summer, where St. John dictated the book of Revelation, worth a trip. I've never been there. That would be a good place to go. Let me see. Yeah, it's good. If you put at something, I know you're chatting between yourselves. Let me go. If you're TP, Michael, we have to return, for example, the simple traditional Irish Catholic faith. We have to return to the original faith, Orthodox faith that spreads across the nation, or nations, that people can recognise. Vincent, it's horrible that the kids were murdered, but then to see the press show the murder as a child is so disgusting. I didn't see that. The murder as a child, I didn't see that. To be honest, like I said, it really got to me. I was surprised how much it got to me, but then it's probably so close to home. But I didn't see that in the press. That's really bad. Original username. I don't know if I'm going to laugh at that every time. Absolutely, as someone who's found his part in Northern Ireland, lost family in the conflict, it's a beautiful sign. Oh, that's really sad. Sorry about that. But it was a beautiful sign. It was a beautiful sign. Michael John, breaking the habit. Yeah, he's very good. Very good. A few more followers than me then. But well, good on him. Good on him. I get a few messages retracted. Are you arguing against each other? or not writing? Well, Vincent, is coming from the obvious two-tier justice social system. There is a two-tier system. I do see that on there. That is, it's not good. We shouldn't have a two-tier system. If anybody does bad, you face the punishment for your consequences. You know, so this is where we hold as Christians. So just bringing some theology into this. I was thinking about this 3-4 years ago, about God being the judge, and think about judges at trials. You know, when we so how do we deal with all this where there is a two-tier system and we think it's unfair and people who go to court who are obviously guilty but get off, and you know, we are flawed, and what we got to remember as Christians, that we live in a broken world, people are flawed, and in the politics of the States, which I think is far worse than here, but it does happen in England or the UK as well, where politics can come into law. If law's supposed to be law, politics shouldn't come into it, but you can see that. God is the judge. There's It's black and white. So all these things that people do, and this is why I find that solace in a sense, and it kind of scares me because I get this a judgment of what as well from God, but also like there's no arguing against God. You can't go and have a smart lawyer or solicitor or barrister to argue your case. It's just like your life and your choices are the case which go before God, and it's yes or no, black or white, however you describe it. And if you're guilty, you're guilty. If you've done something bad, you're going to have to answer to that or pay for that. And so, with all these things that happen and when people choose to do a bad thing, they're not going to get away with it. They might get away with it here on earth. They're not going to get away with it before God at all. And so, that there's a comfort in that for me. And a comfort, again, that we speak about with justice when justice does fail. That God is the Lord of Lords, the King of Kings, and He sits on His throne. He will not be mocked. And so nobody will ever get away with anything. And that's why repentance and coming to know Jesus is so good. When people know that they got away with something, you see people in the court, like in America, of course, they show it, and like in England, people celebrate because they're guilty. So someone who's guilty will celebrate because they got away with it. And that's devastating. But they're not going to get away with it before God. At all. And so that is the comfort. You might have got away with it on here, but we're only here for a short time. For eternity, you're going to have to pay for that. Unless you repent and come to know Jesus. And then when you repent, you've got to admit that guilt. You've got to pay your price, because that's not true repentance. So, and that's why a lot of people won't come to faith, interestingly, because they don't want to admit, even before God, the guilt they carry of something that they've done that they want to hide. But God is judge. He will not be mocked. And so as we travel through this life as Christians, that's what we always have to hold when we see injustice. So, where was I? Annoying that the PM and the BBC use the far right sphere protest. I would be accused of far right, won't I? And I have to be quite moderate. No, I'm probably more right leaning, but I have to speak on my channel quite moderately, as I would get in trouble. I hold back, but I was still, and the context is I hold back, and I would still be called far right. I've been called a right wing nutter in a meeting with another vicar once. But so it's both sides, and they need to bring up the other side. That's what I was saying before. If they don't start talk about Antifa and the Muslim people going out as well in the same sentence, there's going to be more civil unrest, I believe. Mr. B, can I request people to pray for the eternal soul of my uncle who died last night? Sorry to hear that. We'll definitely be praying for him. There'll be different theologies here, but we'll be praying for you and your family for sure. David Wood, the Bishop's Gate is starting a movement away from LLF bishops that should have gone out from amongst us. Should other churches join them in solidarity or accept LLF bishops' supervision? I think we are in a window for people. If you think about, like, to take the running for the Olympics, when they're strung out along a line, they're running like the marathon or something, and you got people leading. That would be like St. Helens Bishopsgate and All Souls, like at the front, leading their charge. And you got people who strung out across the timeline. I think a lot of people now are waiting for February, July to see what the House of Bishops bring back, to see what the Alliance can do. And I'll say the Alliance because the CEEC are part of the Alliance rather than separate them out. And I think there's some, and I'm interested to see what happens in their discussions. But I think what gets brought back to February, July synods next year will make a big decision on what people do. That's individual vicars, if they stay or leave the Church of England. That is laity, who is far easier for them to leave or stop giving money. That would be to churches, who will decide what to do with their parish share, whether to stop giving it to the diocese. So I think there's some that's already done it, who are further ahead, and some who are waiting, and there's some who are just saying this is not our race. So the Bishopsgate Church starting to move away from our bishop. So the other part of that, and I put it on. Oh, by the way, if you haven't seen the video yesterday, I'm putting all my videos on a podcast, and so I don't know if it's simple to search for Rev Dan on a podcast provider, but people have told me that I haven't got time to watch your videos. But if you put it on a podcast, I can listen to it. I've got a friend who's in Cambridge, and he, cycles around, and he can listen to my podcast. Interestingly, to make sure it worked, I listened to myself while in the garden. On the video, quietly quitting the Church of England, and this is relevant to your question. So you can sign up if you don't want to watch my videos. To sign up for the podcast, and then I'll remember to talk about Substack as well. So there's another group of quietly quitting the Church of England that they just won't have anything to do with the Church of England structures or their bishop, which that video was about. It's based off an article. And they'll slowly move away. So they'll be part of the Church of England, but quietly quit, saying I'm not. And I think a lot of churches are there. But it's very difficult because, I suppose we're waiting to see what the Alliance do. Will there be a separate province? Probably not at this stage. What will the bishops offer us? And will we be happy with that? And what they're offering us at the moment, we're not happy. So again, it goes to that long line. Some people have said already, I'm not happy with what you're offering. I don't think it's going to change. We're going to take action. And you got other people saying, I'm not happy with what you're offering, but I'm going to wait to see what comes back in February and July. A long answer to your question, but I think that's where people are. So joining in solidarity with other churches, I think it's quite difficult. And it's also quite difficult when I read stuff online, you got some Orthodox vicars in churches which are more liberal. We're called to churches and we're serving in these churches, and then all this stuff happens. So I started here like just over a year before the vote. In fact, about 13 months before the vote. And so it completely changed everything. This was not a thing before February 2023, and then it became a thing, a huge thing. And so, it's that difficulty as well. There's no, and this is a problem with LLF, there's no unification in a sense because it's so complicated. Michael John, young people being seen to return in the faith, especially traditional Latin Mass. Again, it goes back to that tradition which they're looking for. Eddie Hartop, I'm an Anglo-Catholic, left the church after moving when my lay ministry was cancelled. My product was how men's rights affect Christians. I'm a refugee. What can we do when we have no place to go? Find a place. Find a home. It's so important to find a home. You have to find a home, brothers and sisters in Christ, to worship together, people out of the community. You have to find a place. That'd be my advice. You need to find a place to go and to serve in there. And sorry your ministry was cancelled, but you can't be homeless in that sense, I would say. Mr. B, Raybed, clearly are losing the faith and losing the sheep. I absolutely agree. Eddie, young people are so important. Hugely. hugely. We lost their parents. That's before I became a Christian, but that generation of parents is gone. And even these young kids say to me, you know, when I speak to them, that their parents are really not interested in religion anymore and don't speak about religion. I told them, that was my thoughts a few years ago. We missed that generation of parents. They don't care about Christianity, so what they're going to be speaking to their kids? Those kids are completely lost. In a sense, you could say the church failed there. But these kids, amazingly, through God, are not lost because God is sweeping them up. It's amazing. So I think we're praying for David, Mr. B's uncle. Pray for David. Michael John, most young people I see now seem to be adopting conservative values. Yep, that's what I mean. They're listening, even if they're coming from both sides of a liberal or conservative. They're listening and they want to know the truth. What's important to them is the truth, because they've never been told the truth. An original username. Oh man, I'm never going to get away from smiling. Thoughts on ecumenicalism? It's certainly a positive development, in my opinion. In the Christian faith where we hold it. Okay, so let's quickly. I'll try to do this one in a minute, shall I? So, in the Christian faith where we hold, because of the whole gay marriage, gay prayers things, we understand in how orthodox different people, different denominations are. And so now it's easy to recognise a different denomination. And also, because of that, like the evangelicals and the Anglican Catholics, they're putting aside such differences that they would say this is not as important as what we're going through. So, you know, you pray to Mary, you put your hands in the air during worship. That's not like hugely like a first order issue, as they say. It's not a salvational issue. So we're laying those things aside because this is now really important. And so ecumenicalism. So I've got a brother in Christ, a leader of a Baptist church just down the road. And we joke with each other. You know, he says to me, "You're not baptized," because I got baptized as a baby. I joke with him, "Well, you know, you're not ordained." Not that we believe that anyone can baptize, but in a way I joke, "You're not ordained, you can't baptize me." You know, it's a circular thing. He doesn't believe I'm baptized. I say you can't baptize me. Ha ha ha. You know, but it's we work together and we have a good brotherly friendship not because of our different denominations. So I think actually ecumenicalism, and churches get so small now, and the need in our areas is greater. I speak about this the other day with someone. They said, "Why can't we do a kids thing in the area?" And I said, "We have to we're too small a church. We need to find other churches to work with. The bigger church do their own thing, and that's fine. But coming together, and it might not be an Anglican church. It might be a Baptist church or another church. So ecumenicalism, if it works, I say yeah, absolutely." Ta-da! Was that a minute? Where are we? Here's an easy one. Are those Rev Down signs letters real? Neon signs, or the virtual thing? They're real. They're real. And it's annoying because there's books behind them. I have to move them. They are real. I control them by an app. They're on a battery. And so, no, I put them up there. And I totally forgot that because I got a posh camera, that when I focus on me, they go blurry. But they're real. Let's see if we can do this. Let's see if my camera goes on the back if I'm out the way. There you go. They're in sync now. You see how untidy my bottom shelf. See my bottom shelf there doesn't get on the videos. It's just it's typical. You just do where people can see. See now? This chair is amazing. The rosary is a more powerful spiritual weapon, especially if it's recited in Latin. That's controversial, Michael. Speaking to an Anglican. Will Word at Rev Dan are not part of a church currently due to the awful mental health So this is always my safe place to hang out with you. Well, brilliant. Well, we will pray for you. We will pray for you. I wish I could do something online, church-wise. I've been told that would be very naughty. I would get in trouble. I would have to look that up. I think there's a lot of lost Anglicans out there that we would need church worshiping together. I don't think I could do that independently. Mr. B, I heard that we all worship the same God thing today on media, but Allah isn't the Trinitarian God, is he? No, not at all. He's not, and that's been proved. Michael John, you look gorgeous with both cameras. Thank you. Always giving me compliments. Thank you very much. Mr. B, I say the rosary most days. Sometimes I do Our Father and Hail Mary in Latin. It just takes longer. Latin. Oof. Oof. I keep looking over. I'm looking at my camera instead of looking at that one. So vain. I'm so vain. Across, on this channel, it's quite nice. We do get Catholics and we get Anglicans and we get probably other denominations. But again, we come together for the one thing, and we might disagree or agree to disagree, but that's a good thing. I think we should continue this chat in Latin. You know what? I'll get my mother-in-law. She's from Colombia. She got brought up on the Latin Mass. If you start doing the Latin, that's it. She doesn't understand me speaking English, but she could understand you. Oh, here you go, in the Latin. Oh, my Lord. Okay, pray for... I lost the chat. You're chatting way more than I'm speaking. Pray for TP and Mr. B. Definitely need our prayers. Willward wrote down, how should we respond in the workplace when faced with aggressive social justice policies, e.g. 50-50 gender split, forced gender pronouns, rainbow lanyards? Oh, like, So, I'm just thinking about this one. Because you need to stand up for what's true. But in the workplace now, I worked for many years outside the church, and I wouldn't like to work in the workplace now. I think I would get in trouble. You stand up and you know that you could lose your job, and then that affects... I lost my job once because I was a manager and the assistant manager wanted to get me sacked. I think she wrote a 28-page letter of... Now I look at, going back to that book that I read, a lot of untruths. There was a couple of truths in there, and which she did the triangulation with the management, and it was awful. And I made, genuinely, I hold my hands up, I made one mistake. And you know what the mistake was? I had a motorbike, and I used to drive into work. And the motorbike broke down once. Really unreliable motorbike. And I couldn't get it home. I needed to get it fixed. So instead, it was in the centre of Oxford. I used to work in the centre of Oxford. Instead of leaving the bike outside, which I knew would get vandalised or stolen, I didn't have any bike locks because I was working there in the daytime and leaving it in this place. I pushed it into the storeroom. And so she wrote about that. And it was there for the night, and the next morning I got it out and got it fixed, And so she wrote about that. And they came back in this letter and they said, you put the bike in the storeroom. And I said, yeah, I did, because I didn't want it to get stolen or vandalised. And they said, well, that would invalidate our insurance because it's got petrol in. It's like, oh, wow. And as soon as I knew that was it, because the triangulation happened that I had a new area manager and he wanted to get rid of me, and I have no idea because he was only there for a few weeks. And so I walked. Because I knew being sacked over that, because I knew it was wrong, even though it was an innocent mistake. They having sacked on my CV would have been not good, trying to get another job. And it was so innocent, but hold my hands that it was wrong. But it took a while to find a job. We got behind on our mortgage payments and those things. And I say that because there's a time to take a stand against a corporation, and there's a time to be smart. And what's the most important thing? To speak to your work colleagues about Jesus if you can, to evangelize the nations, or to stand up for these rights, which you know you're going to get in trouble. But we also in the Church of England, right? Do vicars stand up and say, you're wrong, to the bishops and those, or do you evangelize? And so do I leave my job? So for example, would I leave my job and have no place for my family? Would I have no place for my... So I'm not looking at the camera because I'm thinking so heavily. I've been through that, and I thought I was going through that at a particular time in my ministry. I won't say when, but I thought I was going to lose my job, and I lose my house, and I lose my stipend, and my kids would lose their school, and that's horrendous. So I trust in God completely, absolutely I do. But the devil is also working his ways. But we need to stand up at the same time. This stuff nowadays in this world is so difficult. And I hope you understand that I'm trying to, I wouldn't want to say go do it. Yeah, absolutely do it, because, yes, those things are wrong, and absolutely that I disagree with those. But most importantly is speak about Jesus and bring people to Christ. And so, okay, let's take it back to God. If you believe that God has put you there, because we get jobs and stuff like that, to be there, because it's not just because we wear a collar and we get sent places to lead churches doesn't mean that laity, you lot are not doing that in the workplace. Has God using you in that? And is the compromise to use that, what they're doing, to talk about the good news of Jesus, and how what they're promoting is wrong because Jesus is speaking. You see what I mean? Turning what they're doing round and using what they're doing to go, but this is all wrong. Not going against the company, but helping people, speaking about that. But again, in the secular world, that can get you in trouble. I don't know if I answered your question, because I'm I'm a pastor as well, and so it's not. We want to fight for the truth of God, but your context will tell you, and it's also go to God in prayer, and also understand your context. If it's right to stand up, absolutely stand up. But if God's got you there for a different purpose, then use that purpose and what's happening to speak to other people. I'm always trying to find ways in my ministry to see what's happening around me or in the world, or whatever the context might be, to help people to know Jesus. My wife's cousin and her husband was here the other day, and we were speaking about Jesus, and they were on a journey, and I was speaking about Jesus and trying to speak in such a way that they would understand, and they were like, you should do a podcast about these things. They said, the way you speak is so nice and so smoothly, and that you're really helping us to understand stuff. And we were speaking about the world and what things were. So context is always king, isn't it? Context is always king. And I think it's understanding your context. That's another long answer. Sorry. I hope that answers well. Your Latin on here, guys, I just can't understand it. Michael John, Muslims have Arabic as a common shared language to read the Quran. They pray facing Mecca. We Catholics should pray in Latin facing Rome, just like the Muslims do. Yeah, you Catholics can do what you want. I'll stay as an Anglican and do what I want. Stuart, do you run Alpha Christian Explored? There's a new Youth Alpha out. We're running Youth Alpha at the moment on Friday nights. We're not for the summer holidays. And the kids are really enjoying it. They're really, really enjoying it. It's great. And we're running Alpha in January, which I invited all these young people to. Will, I love the black and white thing. I'm astonished at how liberal and relativist. Here's my bad word pronunciation coming again. Relativistic people's basic way of thinking. Yeah, absolutely. God, it's going back a while. Michael John, I do support capital punishment even as a Catholic. Yeah, I think for the most heinous of crimes. Yeah, that's another conversation. Sarah, Rev Dan is far right. Sorry, I haven't seen teams. I know there was a whole thing on X about all these people putting normal photos and saying I'm far right. That was interesting. I think the alliance of the Church of England is honestly so encouraging now that Anglo-Catholics, Charismatics, Conservative Evangelicals now have so much more in common than that divides. Absolutely. It is encouraging. Sorry, something's going on in my thing every time I click on it. It really is encouraging. Oof. So far at the chat. It is. But, I did a video about Not All Souls, St. Helens Bishopgate, and there has been fallout on that amongst evangelicals, and people have been saying, we're now infighting. We're not as unified as people think, and that's quite a worry. That is quite a worry. I need to go up my thing. I need to get over on this one because this one's my long thing screen. Right, let's go. Let's do a quick shot. As I do. It's 10 o'clock. I started this late. Okay. TP, I don't think God would bother about denominational squabbles. We've got so much to answer when we get to heaven. Will, Rev Dan, what do you think about GovCon Amy? Is that a viable option for people leaving the CV? Yes, but Amy and GovCon have not got the provision. So even if 50 vicars, even 10 vicars want to leave the CV at the same time, there's nowhere to go. They haven't got the infrastructure, they haven't got the houses, they haven't got the churches. And I think a lot of people, if they had that structure there, we would have seen an influx. And again, this comes back to families and children and serving. That's the other thing. We're called to serve in a particular area. And it's very hard to leave when God hasn't told you to leave. And I spoke about this. Interesting that I'm not hearing of people that God told them to leave the Church of England at this time because of LLF. People are leaving over conscience, not because of God. And it could be, but I haven't heard it. Mr. B, so that answers the question. They haven't got the infrastructure, but I think if they did, a lot of people would leave for sure. Mr. B, are the Anglican and Scripted Fellows on holiday? They haven't appeared in my feed for a week or two. I think one appeared up on my feed, I think. I did ask them to do an interview once last year, and once they said they'd get back to me, and they didn't. And so maybe I want to get their point of view as American Anglicans on what was happening in the Church of England. I should follow that up. Michael John, the pride and rainbow stuff should have no place in any church. There's a game on it totally posted. It should, any flag or anything like that shouldn't be unless it's inappropriate. TP, I started Substack today just to post comments I've made to the BBC. Oh, put it in the chat and then we can see it. That was to drink alcohol. My mouth's going dry. So I started Substack. I started ages ago. I was looking at the beginning of this year. So head over to Substack. I put my podcast on Substack, so that's where you can initially find it. But if you got an app on your phone, then you can hopefully find it on your provider. My daily devotional's already there, so I moved that over. I'm on a paid subscription on another provider, and I paid for it for 1 year. I renewed it, but Substack offered it for free, so I'm slowly migrating. And then there's a little subscription thing, and it's not that I want to push it, but for people there are people in different places that do support me on different ones. I'm not going to name them because I'm trying to move people over. Is to go on Substack, and if people want to support me, it's £5 a month or £50 a year, so it's a £10 discount. Or there's a foundational member, and you can pay 100 or change it. It's set 100 or pay anything between 50 and 100 or 1,000. Joking. And to sustain this ministry and what I do, I do spend far more. I think if I've earned a decent amount, off on Substack for the next 2 or 3 years, that I won't pay myself back for everything that I paid over the years for this channel. And not look at the thing again. Sorry, I need to look at the camera. Very rude. And then, but most of the stuff on Substack will be free. But the paid subscription, I'm going to do like the behind the scenes. So on my channel years ago, I did something called a Vicar's Life, where I used to record myself. And I'm kind of thinking of resurrecting that. So you kind of get some of my life behind the scenes, what I do, stuff in church, motorbike, if I go places. And just so, but the most important thing is to create a community. That's the most important thing, is and find it in one place. And what I found with Substack, I could put videos up, I can make posts. So I can make articles from my videos. Not that I'm a good article writer, but there are some websites out there that help me with that, and so people can read the articles as well. So I find it a really useful place, but it does but there is that option because people do want to support me. So if you want to head over, search for Mono Inglés, or it's not in the chat, I'll put it in the chat. I hope this works. I need to find it. Let me copy and paste. But the most important thing over on Substack is you can sign up for free. Definitely sign up for free. That's the thing. Sign up for free. Do that. But yeah, if you haven't done it yet, TP, put it in. Was it TP or Mr. B? I lost you. Who started Substack? I'm following Bride. TP, that's it. Username original. I'm still going to smile. We're not far right. We're sensible centrist. Don't let them label us when mainstream media has become so partisan. Yeah, absolutely. Miss B, although Anglican politics sometimes get a bit like the Book of Kings, more tedious parts. Yeah, too true. Too true. And I notice I kind of like the politics part. I think that's what I talk about on my channel a lot. Let's go down. TP, the A in the LGBTQIA stands for autistic, or maybe I can't. Well, I'm not going to comment. Willwood at Rev Dan, how do you respond to someone who sees a tension between being nice and hold of the Bible's teaching on biblical sexuality? No, I think we got past that point of being nice. I think Ephesians 4:15, speak the truth in love. That's absolutely. But if we talk about sexuality in the church, and and people are questioning us or asking us questions or whatever it might be, the truth comes first. But we, as Christians, we need to understand. You know that thing they say, what's the question behind the question? So someone might be asking the question, but where's that question coming from? Why are they asking? What's the other story behind? We have to be aware there might be something that's being asked of us, and what we hear is that question, but actually there's something behind the question. And so that's why that speak the truth in love is so important. So if I spoke about sexuality, I speak about why I hold that view, why it's good, and speak a broader thing, and it's not just about sexuality, it's about how God calls us to live our life. Our life is much fuller. And so I might bring in an example from my life or something that I've heard about being obedient. That's nothing to do with the sexuality question, but talk about obedience and how my life's been improved in that, and then bring it back and say, so I've given up this in my life, and my life has been much fuller, even though the world would say what he's done is a loss. But now I'm more happy that I've chosen God's way, and that's what God's trying to do in this situation. So you're speaking truth all the time, but we can't be nice, as it were. We can't find a middle ground, because there's just no middle ground anymore. There's truth on this or not. So I hope that answers your question. Are the Anglican scripted fellows on holiday? Well, look at them if they are. Michael John, the Pride Rave about stuff should have no place in the church. Oh, that's it. Did I? Oh, wait a sec. I read, because Will Whippets at Rev Dan, so that highlights me. I went back up. I think I went to one before. Edward Dale, advice, please. There are two churches near me. That one is evangelical and is very orthodox, and I've spoken to them. They seem nice. Other is Anglican and a little woke. I feel pulled to the evangelical. Go to the evangelical. So here's one of my things. This is an old one, but I'll bring it back in here. Like about worship. So when I try to speak to people about worship, what's the difference between an evangelical and Anglo-Catholic, right? I'm like this. So some people choose how they like to worship, but most of us, we just naturally like, we're drawn to one or the other, right? And it's like crisps. So like Walker's crisps, or if you're in a different country, like Lay's crisps or something like that. And they got different flavours. Now, I like salt and vinegar or prawn cocktail. I naturally like them. I didn't choose that. I just naturally do. I'm not so big on, say, roast beef or something like that, or the chicken ones. Or let's take Pringles. Pringles, because everyone knows Pringles, right? Pringles in the box, they got the shape, right? So I like salt and vinegar Pringles. I'm not so hot on roast beef Pringles, right? So I'd always go, if I had a choice in the supermarket, for salt and vinegar. Because I know it's Pringles. I like Pringles, even though Pringles aren't made of potatoes, by the way. That was shocking to find out the other day. But I go for those. But if I went into the supermarket and I really want some Pringles and there was no salt and vinegar there, but there were some roast beef and I can tolerate the roast beef, then I would go to the roast beef. And what it is like, and take that analogy, and I say the Pringle is a Pringle. You hold it up, out the box, I say that's a Pringle. So if there's an evangelical church near me, I will go to that evangelical church, right? If they hold to the doctrines of the church, the creeds, and all those central, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Trinity. Jesus died on the cross for our sins, was raised for us. We will be with God in heaven forever. So if we go, that they believe in that. So I would always go for the evangelical church. If there wasn't an evangelical church, but I found an Anglo-Catholic church that held, well, it's the shape of a Pringle, but there were something that I didn't quite like, but I would go there over a liberal evangelical church. Because even though I like the evangelical worship, I will go for the truth. And that's what I'm trying to say with this analogy. If it is holding to the core, then go to that one. And it will get you by. I'll eat some tubs of roast beef. You like this analogy? I won't go on for ages. Roast beef, Pringles. I might get a bit sick of it, but it feeds me. It feeds me. And then one day I will find my salt and vinegar Pringle church. And then I'll just gorge. You see what I mean? The way my mind works. But the funny thing is, it does get across to people. We don't choose our worship. But sometimes I'd rather go for the truth over the way I worship. So go to your evangelical Orthodox church for as long as you need it until you find another church. That's my answer. Sarah, I said no to rainbow lanyards at work, and that's absolutely right. I think you can do that. I think there's stuff that they could just do. Well, then I refuse to put my pronouns online. There's some certain things absolutely you can do. And maybe I was thinking about the bigger things. I like it when some of the websites ask me to put pronouns. I got really annoyed at my doctors when they asked me what sex I was assigned at birth. And I'm like, you are my doctors. Like, I'm going to go to you with a medical condition and you're asking me a question of what sex I was assigned at birth. Like, how can I trust you with a medical condition if you're asking a question like that on your website? It's like, come on, people. It got so crazy. I'm glad to say a few months later they got rid of it, and now they ask male, female, or what do you believe you are, which is far better. I still don't agree with it, but that's the world we live in, and that's the thing. Anything outside the Christian world is going to be crazy in your workplace, and anything outside the Orthodox Church or Orthodox believing church is going to be crazy. And so we the Bible tells us we're going to live in this world. We don't live in the world, we live of the world. We got our identity in Christ, and we are here for the gospel and to show the right way. Of course, we should not be shocked by this. I was not shocked by the Paris Olympics things. Surprise, surprise! They're mocking Christianity. We could have bet on that, and that something like that would have happened. Let's not be surprised. Let's use the opportunity to speak about the gospel to people. Where are we? Oh, you wrote in Latin. See, I'm not on my long screen. I'll go here. I'm not on my long screen. I should go on my long screen and then I catch up. I'm on my other shorter landscape screen. This one's on vertical, right? So I got more chat. This one in front of me here is on horizontal, so my chat isn't as long. That's why I'm going through the chat slower tonight. It's all the way at the top. Wow. Oh, that's the other question. Again, this isn't sound. I just want to be at my bum. I don't want to be at my own bum. In my own, as an arrogant. But on Substack it says like founding member, and I thought, no, what can we call the community? What can we call? I was trying to go through like, like a fan base name. That was it, a fan base name. I was thinking about my motorbike channel, Revved Up. I was like Revits, or like your Revits, your little Revs. Or, I don't know. I was just trying to think. Put some. What can we call like a fandom thing? I didn't like founding member. Okay, let's go for a. Where am I on this chat? I go on this long chat and it's. Right, let me just catch up. Most of the big companies. Motorbikes are noisy and annoying. We have got a young kid who rides like a small motorbike here in the village, and he's got a baffler on. And honestly, I sat in my office with the window open, and I've not been able to hear stuff the Olympics that I'm watching because it's really loud. It is driving around a lot at the moment, so bafflers are annoying. Motorbikes are cool. Miss B, I'm not a woman trapped inside a man's body. I'm a Christian trapped inside a fallen work. Oh, that's I like that. I like that. Let's see. Willwood said to Michael John. So I remember reading a post for someone who was on the senior management at Tesco who thought that genuine homophobia was actually still common. Wow. I hope a chance is into heaven. I couldn't imagine working in the real world. I never imagined working in the Church of England and it realising it's so liberal as well. So I suppose I face a lot of the stuff that you guys do as well. I used to work for Sainsbury's. Tesco were our rivals. Baz, quick question, please. You've waited a while. I go to an Anglo-Catholic high church. It's part of the Church of England, but I want to know if it's good Bible-believing church. It seems to be, don't know a lot about it. You could just go to the vicar and ask where they stand. Maybe the hot topic, where do you stand on same-sex blessings? And that will tell you, they will tell you straight away. If they say, you say, well, you do them. Would you ever do a same-sex blessing in this church? Big question, but you've got a right to ask it. It's going to come in next year. It could be done now, actually, in a Sunday service. And so that will tell you where they stand. I think if they say, no, that would never happen in my church, then that's a good church to stay in. If not, go find another church. If Latin was good enough for Jesus, good enough for me. Very good. I hope you're making a funny comment there. But Jesus spoke English anyway. That's why the King James. That's why it's in English, because Jesus obviously spoke English. It was the far superior language. Don't thou think. Don't thou think. Don't thou think. Michael John, my aunt says that I'm a terrible flirt and I'm man-mad, but I do so within reason. Your aunt, the voice of reason. Is she the voice of reason? Okay, I'm going to go quickly. Just bear with me as I will. Do you think polygamous marriage, a civil partnership, should be legalised in 10 or 20 years' time from now? I think the 10 is pretty clear. Absolutely not. Absolutely no. No way. But they will argue that from the Bible. And that is in the Bible. That's more in the Bible than same-sex. And no. No. But it will come. It will come. But absolutely not. Right, I'm slowly catching up. Catherine, we're certainly called to the village we're in. We came from a biblically sound diocese. We were so surprised to find ourselves in the midst of clergy awash in liberal lies. It's been hard. It is hard. It's hard. And you know what as well, one thing I found on this journey and now being known is, I do like my liberal clergy friends as people. I disagree fundamentally with their views, obviously. But it's crossing that divide as well. And we're always pleased to see each other when we see each other. Oh, my light's gone. I was in the wrong place. Sorry about that. And it's because if we believe this is truth, how do we tell them as well? How do we engage with them rather than leave them? And so that's the journey that I've been on as well. TP, I can't imagine having two wives getting nagged in stereo. I'm not going to say anything. Catherine, here we stay until God says go. Absolutely. It is, one thing that I speak about a lot is our calling is above our denomination, isn't it? It really is. God's called us to that place, and this is, in a sense, the vehicle that God used us in, Michael John, I'm on Gemma Doherty's subject. I don't know who she is, but I'll check that out. We're learning, Catherine, we're learning to speak the truth in love. You make a good point about discernment. Thank you. I've been on a journey. I've changed so much over the past 18 months since I left now, and it's tough. I'm not saying it ain't tough. It's tough, but I face the battles, face the devil. I wouldn't say we come through, because the battle will always still be there. But we're doing this for God. We're obedient to Him, and I've changed a lot as a person as well. I'm a totally different person, more compassionate, more listening, more trying to. You stand on orthodoxy, but you try to preach the gospel as well. in a way that doesn't push people away. And I say this all the time, Catherine, if you haven't seen. How do you... I don't want to come across as one of those people that when I walk in a room, because now I'm a bit more known, that people see me and walk out, because then how can I speak to them about what I believe? So I want to speak in a way online, and I know some people walk out, but some people might engage with me who have a different point of view, and I'd rather that, and that's the success. That's the success that this ministry is, when people see me, they speak to me rather than walk away. If they walk away, then this is completely useless, because then I'm only speaking in my echo chamber, right? I'm only speaking to people who believe what I believe, and that's good. But ultimately, what's my job is to preach the gospel. And so if those people don't want to listen to me, it's what's the point? And so that's why I struggle and find and hopefully speak the truth, but people can know who I am and find that they don't want to walk away. And I thought a lot about that, and I think that's a big thing. Weekend should be 3 days long. Bells and smells in Latin invoke reverence. So does my collar. Should I say? Prawn cartel and Danny. Oh God, it's funny because on this I catch up on conversations or stuff I said a few minutes ago. Will, I don't like charismatic worship songs. Also mention repeat the same chorus 7 times and choose nothing. And the argument from the charismatics is the same with the rosary, I suppose, and things like that. It's quite interesting. That's why we find the common ground. Bye, Sarah. Thank you. You probably went about 15 minutes ago, but bye. Bring us up more salty on one side, just like the Anglicans. Everyone's going to bed. Yeah, I know everyone's going to bed. In fact, the viewer count's gone up. The later that I leave this on, the more people are going. I'm trying not to laugh now, or smile. An original username. Why do so many theory churches given up on incense during the service, given its explicit variant in the use of scripture? I'm pushing my local priest who shares my view on this to push for it. It's seen as very Anglo-Catholic worship now, and more churches are evangelical, and it's lumped in with some old ways of thinking. Not that I would use it. In my previous church, I'm an evangelical, but in my previous church, it was a higher church. God sent me to a higher church. We used it at certain places, and I could see its place, but it has to be used in the right place, and there's got to be understanding, and I think a lot of the understanding hasn't gone there. Would I use it again? I wouldn't use it in this church, but I do understand. So, and one reason I understand, when I was on placement in Oxford, let's turn to this camera. When I was on placement in Oxford, when I was at an evangelical theological college, I'd never been to an Anglo-Catholic college. I went there. They did so much incense on a Sunday that in the vestry where they lit it all up. And when I went in there on the Tuesday to go on my placement, I could smell the incense, and it took me back to Sunday. And I was like, wow, I kind of get this incense thing as well. It's a link. So I kind of see it from that point of view. I might be a bit wrong on that, but it took me back to worship, and that really impacted me. So, but I think on the incense thing, it would be to teach people what it's about before using it. If you was in a church that wanted to use it and the church were a bit unsure, is to speak to the congregation before about why you're using it, because people don't really understand it. People have incense allergies. It's true. I don't know if you know Peter Old. He puts milk and wise as his pronouns. I've seen Peter Old on a group I'm on Facebook, an evangelical group. I don't know him, but I like what he says. Vincent probably talking about the what do you call it? The let's look this way again. The doctor thing. drew through it and wrote sex male. Yeah, absolutely, we should do that. Oh yeah, that's a chat. Give me a loaded thurible any day, Mr. B. You know, when I went to this church and they said thurible, I was like, what? What do you mean thurible? What's a thurible? I have no idea. I learned so many words. I didn't know what thurible was and all these things. Don't think Rev Dan is on the team. I was. I've taken a journey. I was evangelical. I went to this Anglo-Catholic church and they taught me a lot. I really appreciate them. And so I'm sympathetic, should I say. That's where I am. An original username. What sickens me most is that so many Christians willfully believing the nonsense that it wasn't the Last Supper. I'm not sure what that is. I'm not sure. I don't know the context. I've lost the conversation. Sorry about that. Jonathan Paggio. Yes, I saw him when I went to the art conference in November last year. Not sure if I'm going to go to the next one. I've been invited, but I'm not sure. I don't know if I was fully really sold on it. And plus, I don't want to pay 550 quid for and they're having more people, I've heard, this year, moving a venue, and so it's not going to be so good as the last one, I don't think. I know they want to grow the movement, but he was good, Jonathan Paggio. But he's a brain. I'm not a brain. I like the politics. I like Christianity, and I try to speak in a way that people understand. These people, we need them. But wow, he's a brain. Yes, TP, smash that like button. Smash it. We need that. Maybe we need a Derek Nimmo comic vicar persona. It's good for evangelism. Yeah, we need to. Well, actually, I think it's coming to the local church. To be honest, I think it needs to be the local church. I think we've seen with the celebrity evangelists and stuff like that how they keep falling. An original username. Thoughts on pre-1800s Book of Common Prayer. I find it interesting from a uniquely English Anglican perspective to read it compared to more modern ones. Well, the ones that we use, let's switch camera. The ones that we use are, see if I can catch up on this screen, are the 1662 version. We have one at 8 o'clock every Sunday, and we use the Book of Common Prayer 1662. Or do you mean the Common Worship? I really like the Common Prayer. And, I was saying to someone this afternoon, I really like the Book of Common Prayer because I did it this morning as I was taking communion. In that church, hundreds of years ago, these words were being read. These exact words were being read by another vicar, another rector, my predecessor. And that was beautiful. I love that. And so... I don't think the Book of Common Prayer has changed. I think we brought in common worship. Vincent, US audience is joining. We get people from all over the place. Remember the lady from Canada? What are Pringles made of? Oh, Catherine. I found a video online. I think search it up. I found a video, so I checked it out, and they're not made of potatoes. So in the States, they couldn't say they were potatoes. They had to put something else on there. They're not made of potatoes. They're made of chemicals. That's why they're... maybe I'm wrong then, Vincent. If you said it's 42% potato. Alice has entered the chat. Catherine, I visited a church with acolytes. I found the bells and smells very distracting, and I was brought up Roman Catholic. Yeah, acolytes. You know what? Again, when I went to the side church for placement, they had young kids as acolytes, and they were so proud of doing that job. And I think I do see. I don't forget, I am evangelical, but I do see that actually in Anglo-Catholic churches and Catholic churches, when they get kids to do all these other jobs, we don't have those in evangelical churches to get these young kids to do jobs where they're feeling really proud of carrying the candle and dressing up in robes, and they're just, you see them and it's like, oh, I got a big job, this is great, I feel part of the church. And I looked at the evangelical church and I'm like, okay, so where's all the kids? Where are the kids getting involved? And I think that's one of the sad things is evangelical churches don't do those things, and that's fine. But the kids then lose these jobs which they so love. So that's interesting. Last Supper comment is Olympic reference. Oh, okay. I'm looking over to that screen now. I've lost it. I'm not going to look because it's so long. Smash the like button only once or delete the original one. Yes, absolutely. I smote thy like button. Yes. Thanks for response, Edward. Thanks for response is, I appreciate it. God bless. The dog wants out. I'm ready for Freddie's salted walkers. That kind of person. Nice and simple, like my life. You might have lost a few friends there with that controversial statement there. He's probably gone, so that's okay. Do you think Ray Comfort from Living Waters has the correct message? I think no. I like what he does. I like his videos where he goes up to people. I read his book about evangelizing, helping people to realise their, have you ever swore? Have you ever stole? Have you ever got God? I think it really engages with people. I think he stands firm on his views. I think what I find is like, I believe that he believes the Bible. He goes out and does this thing. But we all have our different gifts and talents. And what I'm finding, in a sense, with the whole St. Helens thing, with evangelicals saying, oh, what they've done is really bad for us, and all of is actually, we're all, as I said, doing different things and deciding different things. And whether we feel comfortable with it or not, we have to understand that, but support each other as long as we're standing on God's word, standing for God, standing for the doctrine, and because at the end, as I was saying before, we got to stand before God anyway. Yes, anyone who's been an evangelist and is Orthodox, I would support. How they do it, I think that if they're truly a follower of God, they do it in a respectful way. And if they're not, then we have to correct them, and that's right. But I'd rather correct a brother privately than or sister than publicly. I find that we do it so far badly online. So I think he's got the correct message from what I have seen. But he only pops up every so often, so on my thing, and that's only when he's out doing this kind of. But engage with people, So I might be wrong on that. Night to Catherine. She's probably gone. Thanks so much for your videos, Dan. Always helpful. Inform my own thoughts. No problem. Night, Catherine. Looking across. 10:30. It's 10:30, people. I start at 8:45 after starting late, and now we're at 10:30. And I reached the bottom of the chat. So let's call that a night. I'm not looking at the camera, having this in front of me. I'm not looking at this camera as much. But thank you so much. None of you have come up with a name for the. I forgot what I called it before. Suggest a name on the next chat. So it's late. Have sweet dreams. Think of the community group name, the fan base. And what I'll do is I will see you next month. Stay safe, stay faithful to God's doctrine, live out your faith, don't go rioting, and see you soon. And I'll go over there to turn off the stream.